morning. We're on.
Okay, welcome members of the board, Mr. Superintendent, members of the staff, and members of the viewing public. Thank you for joining us at our regularly scheduled July board meeting. I'm Jerome Lothridge, president of the Oakdale School Board. You will note during these unusual times, several of us have donned masks. We will spend some time talking about the efficacy of masks in the educational process as we go forward. You will note, however, too, that we will, as a matter of protocol, lower our masks simply for the purpose of speaking. We are maintaining appropriate social distance here, so I want to make sure that everyone knows that we are abiding by that which we ask of others. But in order to facilitate public participation in these important meetings, we're going to do that. And so my mask will be lowered at such time as I'm providing some public comment, and we welcome all who are joining us both in person and virtually. It's our custom at the board to do two things at the outset. One is to pledge allegiance to the flag. So I invite those present, please stand and join me. I'll ask that Todd Corbin lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would now invite all those both physically present and participating electronically to observe a moment of silence. We'll take just a moment, please. Thank you. It's customary from time to time for the president of a public board to take some personal privilege and to share an opening thought. We sit in an educational institution that we all value deeply, and these halls are nothing short of hallowed. And the work that individuals do in our classroom as our teachers and administrators is nothing short of sacred. And so I thought it appropriate that from time to time, perhaps not in every meeting, to share a thought that comes from our learning, perhaps from something we've read. And so recently I revisited that great work by J.R.R. Tolkien. Isn't it fiction that illuminates our minds and prepares us to deal with the real world? Isn't it fiction that does that? And if we think about our students from kindergarten through 8th grade, isn't it the wonderful glories of the written word that animate their learning and that allow them to approach what has become a very nasty world? And so I thought, again, taking a very brief point of privilege and understanding that we too are learners even outside of our 8 years in our formal education, I thought I would take just a moment and share a thought from the written word. This does come from Tolkien, from the Fellowship of the Ring, published in 1954, the first of that great trilogy that Tolkien published. And in the second chapter of his first book, you may recall that Gandalf the Great, the protagonist, is speaking. He is speaking with one of our other famous characters from this brilliant work, Frodo Baggins. And Frodo has just learned of the task which is before him. And it's a task which really honks. He has to, by virtue of fate, go and pursue the ring. He has to do the hard work. And this is what Frodo Baggins says to Gandalf: I wish it need not have happened in my time. To which Gandalf replies, imbued with great wisdom, so do I. And so do all who live in such times. But that's not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what we will do. So, with that measure of resolve, shall we open this board meeting and take under consideration, I think, a number of weighty topics, but we will follow an agenda in so doing, shall we? Okay, agenda item number 1 for our consideration. We tend to ask for recognition of our guests. We have a number of guests who are joining us electronically, but I would invite any guests who have joined us physically tonight to just do a quick introduction. I see lots of friends up there. Maybe just a quick introduction and a hello to the board members here. Maybe beginning with Dr. Dossary.
Hi, I'm Paul Lashley. Two of my kids will be coming to school here in kindergarten, second grade.
Welcome, Paul. Hi, Lori.
Hi, I'm Lori Key. I have a daughter that's going to third grade. Nice to see you.
Hey, Doc.
Craig Cupid, I have an upcoming kindergartner.
Glad you're here.
Laura Lotus, I have an upcoming third and fifth grader.
Great. Well, thank you all for participating in person. We have many, I think, who are joining us for this important meeting electronically. All are welcome. We appreciate you being there. To business, we will call our roll to establish a quorum. I believe that with Todd Corbin and Aaron Bolton being present, we have a complete board, and therefore, with that roll call and the quorum established, we will call to order. We have provision in our meetings for public comment time, and we welcome that. We do that typically with respect to a number of strictures that are put in place. However, I think we probably have some exceptions to be made this evening, given the unique nature of the times we live in. And so I welcome public comment at this time. I would ask that you come down, and I'll ask Dr. Pierce to arrange the microphone such that it can be used, and invite any of those who might be in attendance who wish to make public comment to do so at this time.
Do you want to hold it?
I do want to hold it.
Would that tell you more? Can we put that over?
That would be nice if you put it on. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Pierce and members of the board. Tonight, I am here because I'd like to voice concern about two things. The second is really time permitting, the more important of which is my concerns about the conditions upon which students will be returning in August for school, and most specifically about the options for online instruction. So I reached out to, I can probably 3 to 5 minutes, is that too long? Okay. So I reached out to Dr. Pierce and Principal Foster, because I was concerned about the options that were being considered for August. And on the first day, that they were both very receptive and kind and willing to listen and very open to my ideas and my thoughts, so I appreciate that. So, first of all, I did have a concern about the safety, some of the protocols that were being plugged in and we were hearing about in the community. And I still have concerns even based on the PowerPoint that was attached to today's agenda, but that's really not what I want to focus on today. What I do want to focus on is the online option. And I'll share with you guys a personal story. Is members of my immediate family have serious health conditions, so that put us at high risk. I personally have 3 comorbidity factors. I've had 30% probability of mortality of COVID, and still our other family members are even higher rate than that. So, given some of my concerns with the conditions in the school that are on site. For example, every other seat in the cafeteria is not social distancing. The kids just don't need seats to requirements, and the idea of our daughter, who's healthy, of our daughter going and potentially being exposed and being at home in our family is extremely concerning, really too high a risk for us. So we have decided that her going to school in person is not an option. And then plus there's the emotional burden. She understands what's going on. She just trying to make what she understands. And the emotional burden, she knows that if she gets it, she will be responsible for the death of someone she loves, which is a terrible burden for a child at that age to have to carry. I'm sorry, I get emotional. So her not attending school in person is not an easy decision. I believe it's extremely important. She has struggled psychologically. She can look out and see all the kids playing, and we won't let her play because they don't observe any safety measures. She's the only one who wears a mask. And so she's really struggled with isolation and the idea of doing this online school in a box where all she does is look at a computer and she doesn't have interaction with people at all. It really concerns me for her, but it concerns me for all of our kids. And I think about how traumatic this has got to be for our children. My husband and I both work full time. I'm not a teacher. I don't have time to teach her all day. For her to sit in front of a computer and do classwork on her own is not feasible. She's just turned 8. We both work, so I faced with the decision, do I quit my job? And then there's all kinds of implications for that as well. So, it really is not an easy position for us, but it is life or death. And I don't mean to sound, like hyperbole, but it's not. It's a life or death decision. And I think you guys need to hopefully fully appreciate that. So I submitted a proposal to Dr. Pierce with a recommendation for what I thought would be a better learning environment and a more healthy psychological and emotional environment for Oakdale children who cannot physically attend school. I understand in the last couple of days he spoke to that by you guys and that you guys do not support that plan. And it's really for the community. I just want to be here to go on record to say what that plan consists of and why I think that plan is a good idea. And I'm also not, married to every aspect of it. It would be something that I very certainly could have been tweaked and made more practical or better, but I think there are elements of it that are really valuable. So the proposal was basically that we would conduct another survey. Survey that was done several weeks ago. It showed that 23% of parents were not comfortable sending their children back to school in August. I don't think that's a true number, by the way. And that was back when the counts were around 150 to 200 per day. So yesterday was 993, I believe. And based on the parents that I talked to, in common sense, I would say that if that survey were conducted again, you would find that far more than 23%. You also have a significant number of teachers who are not comfortable with return to school. And I think that those numbers would be up right now as well. So, but my proposal was do a survey, find out where people are now. And in a sufficient number, I threw out the number of 15 students per grade were interested in an online, and I thought it was finally committed to an online class, that Oakdale would dedicate one teacher from that grade to teach Oakdale curriculum, same curriculum that teacher would have taught, no additional prep, for just teaching in front of the camera. Both those documents, those work papers that the student would have done in the classroom, Google Docs, let parents have their individual children complete those papers and they get submitted back up and graded. And I know that sounds simple, but I'm making it sound simple. but I really do believe that's workable. In talking with them, I think they felt like it had some merit, it was workable in some ways. And so, that's really what I want to ask you guys to consider. I know you have a proposal in front of you today that is not that. But I believe that even if you didn't want to dedicate one teacher from the grade to doing that, even just to put a camera in front of a classroom and have that recorded and have the kids watch and still do the work for, I think would be more beneficial than going to it in public schools. And basically, here's why. There's a couple of benefits that I've heard personally see with the approach that I've suggested. First and foremost is I think psychologically and emotionally it's better for children to maintain their sense of community with online teachers that they know and the students that they know in a virtual setting. So my daughter, we read her an email, we were at dinner table and I was reading the email to my husband and we got from her upcoming teachers explaining some of the summer requirements. And she said, oh, I know her. She's not in the third grade, but she still knows the third grade teachers. And so I think there's a lot of value in the children who know have a sense of home and belonging. And it's been really hard for them to be separated from all of that. And so the ability to at least have an online classroom with a person that she knows and with other students that she knows, I think is really valuable. And I think it's hard to underestimate how traumatic it's been for children. This is something you can control. And I think this, there's lots of things about this we can't control. But if you can control whether these kids go sit in front of a computer all day in a black box with no human interaction, essentially, in their learning experience. I think it helps with that sense of community. I also think, it provides a continuity of education, so it's hopefully at some point this goes away, that adult kids come back into a traditional learning environment, and they learn the same curriculum they would have learned having been here. And so it just makes the transition back to Oakdale easier. Also, this is not going away for a while. It's really important that we figure out how are we going to effectively teach children, and just putting them in front of the computer for however many hours a day. I would think really is the best approach. So I think it's really important. This is actually what I was describing, where you take one teacher per grade to become a beta test where, eventually schools are going to have to shut down. I think everybody realizes that's a very high probability the schools are going to close down again. So should that happen, we would already have this test with the teacher in each grade who has some best practices, has experience actually doing this, and it help the other teachers transition into an online teaching and learning environment. So I'm almost done. I also think that it's an opportunity for Oakdale to lead. So Iowa City just announced, public schools just announced that they're going to have teacher-led instruction. So they're going to have certified teachers teaching. I know a lot of schools have not done that, and they're doing different forms and they're giving choice. But there are a lot of schools that are actually doing teacher instruction online. Iowa City is. I think it would be a good opportunity for Oakdale to be out in the front. We like to pride ourselves on being the best. And I question if this is what's being proposed tonight is a solution from the best. Is this really the best we can do? We're one of the wealthiest, if not the wealthiest school district in the state. There are a lot of resources that come to bear. I think that whatever you needed to make what I'm proposing work, laptops, cameras, whatever it is you need, I think the community would step up through the foundation and help support that. So I really just left wondering, you guys had 6 months, and I just frankly just disappointed to see the plan that I see, and I feel like Oakdale could have done better. So anyway, I hope that you all will consider, I know it may be too late, you guys are voting tonight, but I hope you will consider a more personalized approach to online learning. That concludes my comments.
Is there anyone else?
Thank you, Lori. I appreciate it very much. I know my board colleagues do as well.
Lori, thank you. What I will say from the board, the plan that we're going to discuss tonight is a plan that's going to be flexible because this whole drama epidemic that we're in is ever changing. So we're going to take everything she said under consideration. Yes, we are probably going to adopt a plan tonight, But that doesn't mean that this plan can't be changed and can't be modified between now and August the 13th. And quite frankly, if you want my gut feeling, I think that it will be modified a little bit because we're just going to have to. So thank you for your comments. We took some notes. Sure.
A practical.
You know what, actually, I don't mean to forestall the conversation, but in the interest of kind of our protocol, we really can't accommodate debate.
It's not really debate, it's just
Okay.
a question.
Okay.
So if my daughter is going back to Oakdale, in person is not an option. So we transfer to Edmond, and then let's say in October, you all make a decision to close school, and you have an option for online school that's more in keeping maybe with what I have suggested tonight. Is it possible for her to go back from Edmond and come back here for the remainder of the year?
Dr. Pierce, would you mind, I think the appropriate venue for accommodating individual requests really is through.
When we get to that piece.
Yeah.
And he will answer this question.
Okay.
It's coming.
Okay.
Yes.
And again, we love public participation, but with 640 students, we simply can't do it. It's not, I'm sorry. Okay. Dr. Pierce, if you would lead us into the time of staff report, we're all eager to hear the superintendent's update.
Thank you, Chairperson Waters. Appreciate that. My typical superintendent's report is very abbreviated because I know we have the presentation to discuss, but I did want to recognize and congratulate one of our fifth grade teachers, Lisa Pitts. Congratulate Lisa Pitts. She was recently named an Improvement Fellow with the Oklahoma State Department of Education's Excel Networked Improvement Communications Cohort. So she will go through some additional professional development. There were, I believe, 16 districts recognized as an application process, 21 improvement fellows, 85 teachers. So I'm guessing she was one of the improvement fellows, but it is the members engage in continuous improvement cycles in their classroom to implement, refine high-leverage, evidence-based instructional strategies.
Thank you.
So we want to congratulate Ms. Pitts for that. Also, I wanted to bring to your attention that we were the recipient of 2 of the CARES federal grants, and perhaps from the financial Steve can walk us through that. There's 2 different ones that kind of have an umbrella federal fund, but they're for 2 different purposes, 2 different amounts. Some of them have restricted things that we can use it for, but we do have some additional things that will help cover some of the costs to implement our return to school plan. And we're looking forward to the beginning of school, having some additional professional development. We already have some things in the works. We'll send a schedule out to you when that gets finalized. One of the things that we're going to do is have someone come in from Giant Worldwide and talk about Applied Voices. And we have some technology work to do with their teachers. And one of the things I think our teachers will be most enthused about is all of these 17 required State Department of Education by law compliance modules that they must complete annually. We have found a way to do that online, self-paced, outside of school, whenever they wish to do it. We probably will be able to kick that off in these couple of weeks so they can have the leisure to do that. And right now it's a free of charge to us. So that's another, that's in our questions. So with that, I will conclude my report. And Mike, do you have anything to add from you or?
I did not this time.
Ladies? They will probably join in as we go through this presentation.
Okay, thank you all, and we'll count on you two as we move into the meat of the agenda here. Thank you all. Again, in particular, I'll say our building principals have done absolute yeoman's work in the process here. We'll acknowledge that more appropriately later. But if there are no other matters specific to these reports, we'll move to agenda item number 2, which is our consent agenda. Item number 1 on our consent agenda is the approval of minutes. My board colleagues will undoubtedly review. Do I have any questions relative to our minutes?
No.
June 9 meeting?
No.
Okay. Therefore, entertain motion to approve. And a second. All in favor? Aye. Marlene, please note that the minutes were approved. Similarly, from the July 9 meeting, same process. Any questions, concerns? Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
And a second.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Marlene, if you please record the approval of those as well. The acceptance of our financial reports, specifically our expenditures and treasurer's report. Do we have anything specific before we have Steve Huff come up? We need to have answers from a general standpoint. Okay, Steve, we'll invite you, please, to the microphone here. Yeah. Give Mike a second to get it teed up. If you would mind to say to Steve, yes. Steve, the microphone's all yours. It's improbable that there could be 2 billion people watching, so just.
Nothing like those questions. Okay, so the first page is that nice chart of expenditures. And so for the end of the fiscal year, we spent 70% of the general fund on instruction. I also like to include other related things that affect the classroom, including student support, instruction support. So when you look at those, we're right at 78%. On the next page, we ended the year with $3,076,133.76 in the bank. That we have 190,000 outstanding warrants for a cash balance of $2,855,577. If you go down by fund, that's the gray column on page 3. The general fund ended with $1,230,331. That said, we're still working on closing out the end of the fiscal year. We have about 175,000 in open purchase orders that Marlene is working on closing out. So for a carryover, you take that. I don't imagine that 175 is completely consumed. Most of that probably will be closed out and not utilized. But no more than 1 million, 1.2 million, and no less than probably, I'm going to say a little over, well, just say 1.1. But I think it's probably going to be closer to 1.15 or 1.2, which is about where we were last year. And so last year we were at 1,221,000. The building fund, we have 141,000. We have 464,000 left in the bond funds. We do have 1 million left in the CD fund. From there, we just have really reconciliation pages. You skip back to page 5, there's a general fund expenditure comparison of the last 3 years. And bottom line, we spent $4.7 million on payroll expenses and $388,000 on non-payroll expenses. The non-payroll expenses were $60,000 less than last year, so we did really well on the non-payroll expenses. The next page is just kind of the working budget. And today we have spent 97% of that working budget. Any questions?
Steve, our personnel budget was 4.7 million, right?
That's right.
The 100 to 299 line.
Right. what was the complete budget that we started with? The whole number, personnel, everything.
Everything, 5.275.
5.275?
Bottom line, yes.
Yeah, okay, got it, right there. Yep.
And that's where we have, in that bottom section, we still have, purchase orders that are still in.
Got it.
So, over the next couple of weeks, we'll have it closed out. Be able to have a true figure balance. Any questions, or we did have, if you go back to the bond payment page, we retired the July 2015 bond. That payment was wired on June 30th. So we just have the November 2015 bond and the June 2018 bond, the transportation bonds outstanding. Any questions?
Questions to the board? Okay, as usual, Steve, thank you for a very thorough report. We need to vote according to 5.3 to set the financials. Do I have a motion? Motion and a second.
A second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. We've covered 5.4 relative to the encumbrance as well. We will, Marlene, if you would just to note that we captured that as well. 5.4. Okay, if I could ask the board members to turn attention to agenda item 5.5. This is the declaration of district equipment as listed and described as surplus and the authorization to dispose properly of that. This has been the work of Mr. Franz over several months. Mr. Franz, I invite any commentary you have relative to that significant effort that you are free to make now.
We have several technology items listed on that sheet. So we purchased lots of new devices over the last 3 months. So this is more clean out. And again, we are using the company Great Plains. They are picking up and either selling and or recycling all of those devices. So continuing to clean house.
Have they gotten back to you on, have they been able to sell any?
I would have to talk with Marlene to see if a check has come in. I know that they've communicated with me several times asking about, do you have more of those? Or are you looking to maybe have additional items? So they're looking forward to coming every Wednesday after our board meeting to pick up.
Super. Again, for those who are new to the programming here, this has been a significant initiative on the part of the school to properly dispose of surplus equipment that is accumulated on this campus like all of our attics, I suppose. And Mr. Franz took up the mantle of making sure both what we accounted for and then disposed of that. So I do believe that in order, we've taken this issue up a number of times with respect to giving a directive, but I would say declarations specifically to declare these items surplus and authorize the administration to dispose of properly is in order. So hearing the report and pursuant to 5.5, having a motion pursuant thereto. Motion of second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So, Dr. Harris, we authorize the continued liquidation of those surplus assets pursuant to the program we put in place. Thank you again for fantastic work in that respect, most particularly Mr. Franz.
Mr. President, can I draw your attention to the next item that I noticed in reviewing the contract? There was an item where the overall amount, section 2.1, it's spelled out in words, and then also has a new number, and the number is the correct amount. It was just an oversight, a typo, so we do need to go with the number amount.
Where are you specifically referencing that?
It would be agenda item 5.6.
Okay. Within that contract.
Within that contract, if it will load up here for us, I believe it's section 2.1. Probably bottom of about the first page. I think maybe the second page. Mine is not pulling up there quickly here. There it is. Bottom of 2.1 under compensation.
Great, I appreciate you calling our attention to that. So for the avoidance of doubt, we will say in contravention to generally accepted accounting principles, the numerical number will supersede the written number.
We'll revise that.
And though that will cause Mr. Huffray angst, it is his contract.
It is. We will probably resubmit something to us when we actually sign, but I want you to be aware if you vote to approve that it is the second amendment.
Okay. The important thing here is my board colleagues are clear, are we all square, the numbers and not the words that rule on this one. Okay, and Dr. Chris was just asked to revise. We will approve that pursuant to the numbers and not the words. Any question on this renewal?
No, but Steve, I just want to thank you for all the federal dollars that you bring in, for all the time and effort that you put in this entire year and years previous. Thank you. You've done a fantastic job, and we hope to continue to use your services for years to come. Thanks.
I will not cheapen my board colleagues' comments on that except to say amen. Thank you, Steve. With that discussion, I have a motion to approve this contract.
Motion to approve.
And a second.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And thank you, Steve. Okay, moving on to our business action items. We are engaging now in conversation, specifically on agenda item 6.1, which is consideration, discussion, and possible action on the support staff salary scale for 2021. And here, just to orient folks on global revenue, we are taking under consideration pay increases. And this is something that I think we are all enthusiastic to engage. There's been a lot of work that's gone into it. We'll again turn the podium over to Dr. Pierce and Steve Huff to describe this. But this is something that we have been trying to be extremely thoughtful about as a board. It's something that thematically we support wholeheartedly. We want to do with abundance of wisdom and with full fairness and knowledge around it. So with that, Dr. Pierce, I'll turn it over to you for commentary, and then for Mr. Huff for details.
This particular agenda item only addresses support staff, and I gave you a hard copy of this so you can see it. What I found was there was not a pay scale for support staff. It was just more based on historical knowledge and length of contract, etc. So in lieu of a step scale, a chart, so to speak, this is a guide. So that if we were to have a new hire, we know how many days contract they're working. We also know that hourly rate, there's a range based upon experience. And then there's the median hourly. This is more a guide for us to get started for next year. And we may then pursue some sort of scale without going into the weeds too much. But this gets us aligned. We did take a look at all of our support staff salaries. There were just one or two that were slightly, we just need to tweak a little bit so that they're in keeping with their colleagues. And so this will bring us and give us some guidance for future hires. I will also add that when we started looking at overall costs of our support employees this coming school year, we actually had a net savings because of some resignations that we did not replace and just some different contracts that came in, and maybe someone went part-time. So I think there's about $38,000 saved this year in this effort.
And just as a point of clarification, on the staff, on the staff and faculty.
This is only support staff, so it does not include administrators or anyone that is certified teacher.
Okay. And again, for both the benefit of the board and for those listening, would you talk very briefly on the conversations we've had relative to our primary peer, which we do consider to be Evan Public School. It's not the sole peer, of course, but it's the benchmark closest to us. Most naturally is our, I will say competitor, because we compete for talent in this realm, no different than we compete in the business realm. So would you maybe just provide some context for the public about what that looks like?
Sure, we have done some exploring about our neighbors and their salary scales, and we know that in some places that we are woefully behind, in other places we're on track. And so with the support staff here, this is very much in keeping with, actually it is probably ahead of the pace of our closest neighbor Edmond schools. But that's, as we go into the second item that we can vote on, then we can discuss the teachers' salaries as well. If you want me to pursue that, I'd be glad to go ahead and talk about that.
Let's do that. We'll obviously take these up as discussion and the potential voting items individually, but maybe go ahead and talk through the teachers as well.
As we began looking at salary scales, I know that there has been a concerted effort in the last year or so to bring Oakdale teacher salaries up from where they have been. And I've done a little comparisons, some charts and some tables so I can see where we are related to particularly Edmond schools, which we have found sometimes I think that does make a deciding factor for some people that we're offering jobs to, where they, as a teacher, they can go 7 or 8 minutes west of here and make $2,500 more for the same exact job that we want to be competitive with that. So what I did in front of you, you see this 2-page graph, or this chart, this chart. There is a state minimum salary scale for teachers of the state, and by law, we cannot pay lower than that. And we exceed that right now by about $2,400 on each step of the teacher certified pay scale. However, when you look at our closest neighbor, Edmond, we are about $2,500, $2,700 below their pay scale. So we're kind of in the median between the state minimum salary scale and our closest neighbor competitor. I also began to see in the different scales that there are, as a teacher accrues experience, they go to usually another step on the scale to account for the year experience. Our current scale is, steps are not equal. They have some wide jumps in some places, and in other places they're just very minimal. So in the interest of being competitive and to reward our teachers for the work that they do and deserve adequate pay, and for the consistency across the board with steps, we began looking at this. And so I proposed several different options. The first option would be if we just were to match Edmond schools. In other words, if we were to take our salary scale and just reboot it completely, base it on their framework. You can see there in blue, that's option A, and about what we think would estimate to cost to bring that up to speed for us. Option B is similar, except that instead of, maybe we couldn't meet Edmond's pay scale, we could get close by adding $2,000 per step to that. And you can see the cost at the bottom of that. The aqua column, option C, is if we were to adopt Edmond's framework and then add 25% to exceed their pay scale. Option D is the same factor, except adding 0.5%. The next column, the purple column, option E, that's adding 1%. So those salary scales do then align and have a progressive step increase. And you don't have these wild jumps about every 10 years or 9 or 10 years. So it is progressive, they're aligned. The numbers, I like to have the numbers very nice and tidy and neat, but when just see what it would cost us, we just added some percentages and so forth. That's why the numbers are a little bit not round and nice right there. If you take a look at option F, this would be reboot using the Edmond framework, beginning $2,000 over that, and then if we were to have a step increase of 1% each year, this is what that scale would look like. Now, I want to also draw your attention, this is just the bachelor scale only. There is also bachelor's plus 16, master's plus 16, and doctorate. I would suggest whatever scale we adopt, that we just have a base salary scale, and then if someone has a master's degree, we add certain amount to that.
And Dr. Pierce, just for, well, my information, the boards, but just generally, horseshoes and hand grenades, what percentage of our faculty are master's holders? Would you have a, maybe the principals would be able to help? Is it closer to 10% or closer to 50?
I know we have a number.
We got homework.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I've seen
Let's
the
assign
list.
that as a,
I've seen the list as teacher by teacher, name by name, but I didn't add them up.
Okay.
Um,
Okay, Marlene has that as a homework.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Marlene.
Thanks, Martin.
But the numbers that I've written at the bottom of each of these, Phyllis has gone through line by line, all of our current employees and attributed, if they had a master's degree, what a similar amount would be, and that total is included in this sum.
So these totals,
Okay,
These are real numbers.
okay, that's.
Actually, they may actually be less than this because we've had a couple of people and maybe retire, resign, and the rehire might be a different step. So it might be that it's very close. It does include that. Option G is much like F. Just what if we started our entry level teacher, 45,000, and then add 1% a year? You can see that that's a large chunk of money there to do that. As much as we value our teachers and wish we could do that, that's a large reach. And then option H would be just paring that down just a little bit and then putting the $500 step each step. And so that total would be very similar to option F. The range in the salary scale is very similar to what was there. So that's the high level view of that. I know it's hard to read someone else's spreadsheet if you're thinking, but I did include some of the lighter colored columns show our current Oakdale salary scale versus Edmund's current. You can see it's got brackets around it, that's a negative. If you see without the brackets, that would put us in a positive. I believe most of these would then somehow translate, no matter the option, it's somewhere between 21 to 25 or $600 increase through that option F and H. F, G, and H would be much higher than that. I'll entertain any questions. I know it's hard to just look at this, it's very cumbersome, so we may want to dig into the weeds further about this, and that was fine, but we do need to have some discussion about moving forward.
and if I could provide a little bit of commentary, both for those that are attending in person and for those online. It feels a little strange, but we're up here looking at spreadsheets that you don't have. It is specifically because the board has made really a commitment to abiding by the law. And so we don't look at these beforehand. These discussions are to be held in public. It would be much easier if we had circulated these spreadsheets beforehand, kind of come to a resolution, and then just announce our decision. We don't do that. And the consequence of that is
I'm dying to know what you think.
I'm dying to know what you think. Believe me, more than that, I'm dying to know what Aaron Holsey thinks. But we do these discussions and debates in public, just as a point of sort of information. Have your kids watch this sometime, because this is how the sausage is made with respect to public policy in the school district. So we probably need to entertain for like 2 or 3 minutes anyway. But what you're seeing here is our discussion. And so if you will pardon a little bit of the sausage making process, this is what we're doing here. And so we're going to commence that. Go ahead.
We do have hot off the press 32% of our teachers hold master's degrees, which is very high.
17 teachers. When that spreadsheet was created, that's what our staff was at.
Okay. 32%.
32%.
Of things we should be proud. A third of our faculty are master's holders.
And 1 doctorate. Right.
Two. Dr. Charles?
Dr. Johnson.
That's right, Dr. Charlton and Dr. Pierce. Okay. Fantastic. And Suzuki.
Of course.
Okay, well, first of all, before we get into discussion, are there any sort of points of particulars, any points of clarification that we need to ask Dr. Pierce or Steve with respect to sort of budgetary implications?
Well, sure. All of this boils down to carryover comfort, what I call comfortability, okay? All right. So Steve, when I asked you, and I'm just gonna come right out and tell you where I'm coming from. I think we should blow this raise out of the water. I mean, we are gonna be asking more of our teachers this year, next year. You know what, we've been talking, we've given stipends over since the last 3 years or so. We doubled the teacher pay raise. We had to make some tough decisions to do that when we did that to prepare for it, and we did. That was hard, but we made it through. But after talking with Dr. Pierce at length for a long, since March, since he took over, we've gone through these numbers one-on-one. He's going to come out a little bit more conservative, I think, than I am at this point. But let me tell you where I'm coming from. And I'm going to specifically use finances to tell you where I am. And I'm making a little bit of compromise because I'd commit $45,000 as a starting point right now tonight if we figure it out. Obviously, there's going to be some back and forth.
Was that a personal commitment?
Pardon?
Because I can match that with our budget.
But if I take a budget of 5.2 million, right, and we've got a carryover of 1.2, that's a carryover of 23%. I've worked for 2 superintendents now since I've been on the school board and been around a gazillion of them in the past 5 years. That's a big carryover, and they would kill for that. I mean, most superintendents are happy with 12, okay? We're at 23 right now, based on your numbers tonight. If I take 29% of that carryover, all right, that gives me $350K to dedicate to this salary schedule jump. All right, what does that do? All right, well, that puts me in the $44,000 option H. And Dr. Pierce added option H for me because I told him I would compromise and come down a grade. And he did. I didn't know that was going to happen until tonight. And I'm looking at it, and I love it. So what does that do? That's going to cost the school general operating fund $296,000. Dr. Pierce just said that's on the high end. I've just set aside $350K. That's more than we need. That still leaves a carryover of 16%, which is still a home run. It still gives us leeway. It still gives us $800,000 to plan and forecast for things that we don't know in the future. And we've always been between 8 and 1.2 in the last 5 years. I've been watching the budget. So I look at that. And so what does 44 give me? Well, I'll tell you what it does. It puts our teachers in the top in the region. It puts some of our teachers starting at 0, tops in the country. You're competing with Texas. You're competing with Kansas. You're competing with all these folks that say, hey, we're losing teachers left and right. Well, now we can start gaining. It puts us up over what is 44, a little bit over at the $2,600 starting bump from day 0 than what the Edmond School District offers today. 44,000 versus what is 41,245. When I ran the numbers all day long, I drove myself crazy. I'm trying to justify by fact and not by gut. As I said when I left the presidency at our last board meeting, our people are our most valuable commodity at this school. And to do this, we've got to have a rock solid base inside, because that's what it's going to take. I mean, that's a big faculty, staff, parents, and community input are going to make this master plan drive. And I truly believe that it begins with our teachers in the classroom, because there's not a parent here, there's not a teacher here, there's not a board member here after what we have gone through and witnessed from March, what was it, 13th? March 13th until today, how much it takes to educate an 8-year-old, my 10-year-old, my 12-year-old. It's unbelievable. I had to do it, and I was terrible at it. And I just think it's time for us to dedicate the money right now, get it done. We are smart. We have smart people handling our money. I think we've got a smart board. I think we have a community that would support it. I know if I was an educator, I'd like it. I mean, it's a big pay raise. But I'm on the upper end of the scale, right? I know we can play it conservative, but we seem to always play it conservative. And I just think the carryover of 1.2 million without any dedicated endpoint for those dollars that we know of today, it seems like we're leaving a lot on the table. That's my 2 cents. Sorry, Steve.
Oh, no, I support the teachers in the trenches. So, just a point of clarification, we did under collect this year in comparison to last year, about 100,000.
Okay.
We do know, we under collected about 100,000 in the general fund this year. We do know with the economy being fragile, we don't know what that might look like going forward. So that is certainly a concern. Not saying that's not an overcomable concern. We do also have a cash flow issue, and we will consume our carryover by the end of November.
We will this year. I wouldn't challenge you on that, but I can also guarantee, well, I can't guarantee that either, but it is highly likely that this district is going to have a bond presentation within the next 12 months that takes care of that cash issue, not next year, but the next 3 or 4 out years, depending on how long we carry that bond.
Sure.
And we have non-payable warrant agreements with FNB and the interest on those non-payable warrants to me are insignificant. The amount of money that we're talking here.
It's a short term.
It's a short-term thing.
It's over by
It's over in weeks.
the end of November or the middle of December. So 4 to 6 weeks.
So I have a hard time saying, we're going to have a cash flow issue. Yeah, we are. On paper, we are. But in reality, there are processes and procedures in place for schools to manage through those 6 or 7 weeks at the end of the year.
The cash flow issue has not bothered any previous superintendents. So it's just my problem.
Okay. Right. We're paying you to take care of that problem, Steve.
That's right. And I do. I'll take care of it.
And you do. Thank you. So I'd love to hear what you all have to say.
I'm gonna go ahead and take the spear because who wants to follow in a passionate plea? So I will be Jefferson to your Hamiltonian.
Right. And one other caveat that I do want to mention. By no means, since this is really the first night that we have really talked amongst ourselves, what is the first night, we have some opportunities, and I spoke with Dr. Pierce earlier today, that we have some special meetings, when we're talking about our master planning, that we can tag this on to where we can have more general discussions. There's actually a piece where we can have an executive session discussion when it comes to very specific salaries. And we can utilize that time to further debate and sort of kind of take all this in and come up with where that balance is.
And that may be a course we choose to take. I'm deeply appreciative of the work. I wasn't anticipating we would have 8 options from which to choose. I think that's an embarrassment of riches with respect to our, ability to make choices. I wouldn't say probably I want to hasten that.
Sure.
So that's a point well taken. Let me just ask Steve again, if we could lean on you. Todd started to push us into what are the extrinsic factors that could fix this budget. So if I'm going to just be a budget talk for just a second, expressing for the record, I fully support the maximum we can feasibly extend our faculty period full stop. That said, you noted that we are down 100,000 roughly in our collections. Would that then translate, if Todd's numbers are correct, and we typically have 800 to 1.1 million, does that translate directly into 700 to 1 million? Is it that, how would you characterize the $100,000 shortfall on collections?
Well, I mean, could very well just be a timing issue. Of,
Is that an ad valorem collection?
that's an ad valorem.
We're talking about our ad valorem base.
Right.
Okay.
So, and it's just the dynamics of the time we're in right now. Will that resolve itself? It really just, I mean, that's hard for me to predict.
But will
Where-
that will have more, won't that have more of effect on our bonding capacity than our general operating budget?
I think the bonding capacity may not have an impact for a year or two.
Okay.
I mean, it would take probably a more significant downturn. That being said, that certainly is another possibility.
So would you characterize, just to blow that a little bit, you're implying there's a dynamic which leads to a lag of 12 to 24-ish months? Is that the home value front? Or could you just describe what it is?
Absolutely.
That makes that happen?
Right. And so I would have that concern if that downward trend continues. Will it? I don't know that. The only other concern I would have is that a decision that you would make in regard to your salary schedule is permanent. And so a teacher by law cannot be paid less than they were paid the year before. That being said, a stipend allows you that flexibility to make those types of decisions on a yearly basis versus actually in the salary schedule. So just for consideration.
And Steve, just for the newbies on the board here, how frequently have those raises taken the form of a stipend versus permanent increases in base salary? In your recollection?
I have to go back and research that, but I know
It's 3 or 4,
right.
with one permanent salary schedule.
I think we had
last
a
year.
1,200, is that correct? And then a 2,400,
Yeah, the 2440.
The 2440 was permanent,
and then there was an increase the year before, I believe.
and then we had,
Is that right?
I'm certain we had one before Christmas in 2018. I think it's 2 or 3. More homework.
Marlene can answer that quickly.
Marlene, may we ask you?
She'll just have to run some reports.
Okay,
She knows that.
if we could put that on you as a second assignment. Well, now I first, since you got the first one.
Because
But they have, it has
Because
historically
years
been.
ago, we were at 36. We were at the minimum state. Day 0 was 36. And I've known that.
Right,
and
and the
then-
method of handling it was through.
And then
stipends.
over time, it's come up. I'm not in favor of a stipend in this case, by the way, Brad, just so you all know.
Well,
I probably mandated teacher raise, and there's a second mandate. And that's probably clear.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, state mandated for the formula.
Right, which we were not obligated to do because we are not on the formula. I mean, we were not obligated to give that pay raise based upon the governor's guidance and the State Department of Education's guidance, because we specifically went through that very carefully. And that's what,
Enthusiastically did it, because that you need to vote.
right, and we doubled it. We doubled the 1220. That's where you get the 2440. That's where that number comes from. But at that time, it's, that's what we could do at that time. This is a new time.
Well, and maybe a way ahead here, and I'll welcome Aaron's comments. Maybe a way ahead, if we're not comfortable landing on which of options A through G we undertake tonight, we probably could stipulate or at least arrive at a decision as to whether what we're going to pursue takes the form of a stipend or a permanent increase. We probably should that even, and I'm not proposing the option that we actually get to designate which needs or others we review. But we could, after hearing from Aaron, perhaps we take that up.
And there's all sorts of variations in that. These are just numbers, percents. It could be start anywhere and instead of 500 and whatever, a nice round 500. So here's a question that I have. So when you threw in option A, H, right? For me today, the step difference is consistent at 500. Right. All the way through. Even if you've been here for 25 years.
Now, why is that different than the step difference in F? I just need to,
Well, because
what's the difference in that?
the baseline was Edmunds framework, which is, if you can see back in the first option A.
Yeah.
Those are not nice even numbers there.
Right, yeah, they're terrible.
They're
Yeah.
odd numbers there. So when you do that and you just add a percent to that, or even add a flat amount to that, it doesn't clean that up. What I think I was starting to do at H was to make it tidy.
Yes.
But we could, I think probably the reason F and H are very similar is because one is, H is much like F, it just got tidied up and rounded numbers to a good spot.
So, but it's 500, and the step difference never increases over the years. I guess, is there a reason for that?
Just to calculate what it might cost us.
Oh, okay. So if after 5 years that you went 500, if I'm using Edmund's example, right? They're 450 for the first 5 years.
Then in 5-year increments, they increase by $25 up to the last 600.
Right. So you could do that.
We could easily do that with this.
Those are the things that we can manipulate.
That's what we could manipulate and tweak.
As long as it's straight down 500 feels progressive
Right.
to the longer tenure.
But I am all about making it an even
Sure.
I like number to calculate and see, because in my mind, it just, well, oh, okay, I get that.
I totally appreciate the bands and like 5-year increments. That makes complete sense to me, but for the sake of getting some numbers to find out what the cost would be, let's put a number.
Okay.
Average increase.
Let's hear from Aaron.
First, I just want to say thank you, Dr. Pierce, for recognizing that this needs to be looked at. I heard that when I first was on the foundation, school foundation, the way it started was that they needed to save a teacher's salary. And so it's amazing that now today we are discussing, raising salaries for teachers. I think it's great. And I would love to do what Todd is talking about. I bet I'd like to also get what your recommendations are and Steve's about where we should go.
I would love to go full scale as well, but we haven't landed on a number yet. I guess Steve has given us a number. I guess now it's the board's decision to what degree are you comfortable with carryover. And if you're willing to commit that amount of money or not, I'm willing to go and redo any of this that we can. I'm much like Steve normally, that to take a conservative approach, but I have to trust your judgment, as you guys have been in the district and know this. I don't know the budget cycle. Steve and you all do much better than I do, so I just have to lean on you.
Steve, do you have an option here that you feel more comfortable with than the other options?
I have not looked at those.
Oh, okay.
So, however, I've talked to Dr. several times, and do certainly support this initiative. So
So I guess my question is, would it behoove us to kind of sort of really kind of take this in and come back on July 30th, when we have a special meeting and consider it? I mean,
It might give Steve a little more time to really get the numbers too.
I would be more comfortable, given that we have that special meeting scheduled for July 30th. If we only had the August and we're going to be pushing in what would be effectively another 2 weeks and running right after the start of school.
Yeah.
I might say, let's kind of lock ourselves in here until we come to a decision. I would suggest that we take this up on July 30th as a specific agenda item, that we commit to coming to a resolution. I would ask the pleasure of the board, though, if we could go ahead and discuss, perhaps drive to a conclusion as to whether we want this to be a stipend, namely one time, or going to be a permanent pay increase. I'm sensing a coalescence around a view here. Aaron, you have a view on that?
I would want to go as high as we comfortably can.
And on an ongoing basis, in addition to the base, okay. Todd, you've already expressed your.
yeah, I mean, and if you want to wean this out tonight, I got all night.
Okay. But as to the specific question, you would prefer to see us do an increase in base salary? Nothing?
Increase the base salary, no study.
Okay. I think we're in one accord there. We will plan to do that on July 30th. So Marlene, if you could add that as a specific agenda item for July 30th, that under those strictures, we will discuss a specific permanent pay increase to base. Then we will do the homework, review A through G, communicate as always our thoughts or questions to the superintendent, not to one another, and then we'll take that up as an agenda item for vote on July 30th.
As you review that, you might also reflect on your comfort level with what carryover you would like to see moving forward, because the price tag is really what drives all this.
And I should ask Steve, are you available? I'm sure you and the superintendent talked about July 30th. Your schedule will allow it. Okay. If we could then ask that that zero sum be calculated by the most knowledgeable person in the room, I think that would help our schedule. Okay. Thanks, Dr. Pierce. Thanks for others who contributed to that. Very much.
So basically, we're not gonna take any action on.
We're going to defer the vote until July 30 special. meeting.
We're going to defer this discussion and consideration and possible action until July 3rd.
Always possible. Possible. Okay. That was all warm up. Good time. 6.3. Return to learn. Dr. Pierce, take it away.
Thank you. And as you can see on the screen behind us, that there is a modified slide deck from our last meeting based upon some other input between then and now. There has been some edits. This is just our intro slide explaining that we've considered lots of options and we want to reopen responsibly yet flexibly. We realize that plans are not perfect and we'll have to modify or adjust as we go through that. And data is constantly emerging. It's as if we're playing football and the goalposts keep getting kind of moved on us at the last minute they change the rules. So we are trying to keep current with that, but we would also endeavor to continue to monitor the effectiveness of whatever plan we have, keep track of, observe data, and over the course of the school year. And would certainly ask for everyone's support, cooperation, and generosity, grace, and allowing us to, this is uncharted territory for all of us. I spoke with another person today that has a science background, and I readily admitted that this is not what I go to school for. This is not, so we have to rely on several of our parents to step up and volunteer, and I greatly appreciate that. Generally speaking, the next slide is our approach. And this is just a review of leading up till tonight. The last bullet is that we have had some parent feedback, phone calls, emails, discussions as well. And some of those comments or concerns are addressed in this. The next slide, I want to be able to show you a quick commercial for how we're approaching this. So Andy, if you can click on that rocket icon. This is the feeling that we're experiencing right now. There we go. Enlarge that, please.
Some people like to climb mountains. I like to build planes in the air. I never left the plane to build a plane. Only to be at this high. Sometimes it comes up at 64. It's impressive, it's refreshing. You never know if you're going to go up there. Maybe hours. That's how it's going to work. That's how I build airplanes in the sky. We're not just building a plane here. We're building a train. I love this now. I got a lot of nice out there. I look over there and I see that little kid. I look at his eyes. That's all the place I need.
So if you're, I like this little video clip, it kind of really encapsulates kind of our feeling, my personal feelings the last few months is we really feel like we're building an airplane while we're flying it. And this is our dream. This is, we do know that it affects lives. So that's very, some considerations we had moving forward. No single plan is going to be, it's going to eliminate the risk of transmission, but with a layered approach, much like the Swiss cheese, yes, it has holes in it, but as you layer them upon layer upon layer, it slows those things down, it fills the gap. So moving forward, we have our health and well-being of our children, faculty, and community at heart. The risk factors, there was another guiding principle about the high, moderate, and low risk of different activities and plans, yet being able to do things that are feasible, practical, yet flexible and adaptable. And we also want to consider our most vulnerable populations as we go through that. On the next slide is a review of the parent survey results. And thank you, Lori. I did go back and look. The survey was still open. I have kept it open even until just, well, it's still open. And that 77% that had it at a 4 or 5, as of the beginning of the meeting, was 75%. So it has changed slightly, but it's not to a large degree. The next survey is about comfortability riding a school bus, and then participating in fine arts, extracurricular, such as band, etc. You can see those are at high rates as well. The bus is trending a little bit lower than that. As far as the options go, when we first put the survey out, the supermajority for option A, and then the teachers as well, was a similar result. So based on that, in conversations we've had cumulative to tonight, the return to learn plan is plan A. And to return to school in the traditional schooling model with what I call bricks and mortar on August 13th with those slices of Swiss cheese in place. Those added layers of precautions and protections as practical. But as you see in the first bullet, we do recognize that some of our students have pre-existing conditions. They have immunocompromised risks that can make it more susceptible. I gave some examples there. And we realize that parents finding themselves in this situation, we want them to work with their individual principals to counsel and to discuss another option that works, that might work for their family. The contingency plans, B, C, and D, you see the red arrow there, those could go up or down. These plans emphasize incremental social distancing. So plan B is a little more social distancing. The beauty of plan B is that there are some predetermined firewalls. However, we cannot predetermine what will happen with that. This would just be something for just purely planning purposes. We can't predict when we might be closed, but this could be a model. The contingency plan C is what I call the 2-1-2 hybrid approach, same as plan A, except that it's 2 days at school, 1 day of cleaning, 2 days at home. So really for students it would be 2 at home, 3 bricks at, 2 bricks and mortar for 1 half of the students, 3 at home doing distance learning, and then the opposite group would then attend on those other days. One suggestion was looking at a 4-day week. That's really falls kind of between B and C, although that certainly could be on the table if you had pleasure. And plan D would be this full distance learning if we were to have to completely shut down like we did in the spring. However, we know that this would be different than last spring. This would be more robust. We would ramp up the ability for teachers to use Google Classroom. It would be required, grades would be taken, there would be direct instruction, synchronous or asynchronous to be delivered, and our teachers would be able to provide that. As we were talking about virtual learning, the recommendation is that at this time, Oakdale schools would not offer an option for a comprehensive virtual online content management platform like some of the larger school districts have. Now, I want to clarify my vocabulary here. So moving forward, I would refer to such as an EPIC charter school approach, or what Edmund or Mendel or Moore may be using as a fully online virtual school. I call it virtual learning. What we did last spring, where it's something that Oakdale teachers, as an instructional strategy, would be using Google Classroom.
I call that distance learning. So the recommendation is not to offer an Oakdale virtual learning or virtual school. Some of the thoughts behind that is that we would offer our distance learning capabilities through a classroom. When we do have to close school, quarantines, or if a student has a positive diagnosis, teachers in grades 3 through 8 would be in right away, ramping up the use of Google Classroom to prepare our students for that time. We don't want to wait until we have to close, perhaps, for our students to be familiar with Google Classroom. I would love to have our teachers devote their time and attention to the students they have now to learn the best practices for Google Classroom, so that when we do come to this point in time, they will be ready to flip the switch to be able to be fully at the end of the runway for that. We also realize that Google Classroom and Chromebooks and things like that may not be developmentally appropriate for early childhood. There are other options such as Seesaw and other delivery methods. So the recommendation would be that we would reopen on August 13th with a single plan A, knowing that some families may not be ready or comfortable sending their children back to brick and mortar school. We realize there is another pathway that is unique only to Oakdale families. That option is the virtual learning model in schools. We do want to welcome all of the children back to school. We want to see them, we want them to be here, but we understand that there are circumstances. There is a viable choice for families with specific situations that they may want to consider during this particular season. I have visited with the district administrator at Edmond Schools, and they are offering a virtual learning model through Apex and Ingenuity. Next year, their current board policy permits only out-of-district transfers to Oakdale students. They do not take any other out-of-district transfers other than consideration for Oakdale pre-K through 8th graders. Now the question is begged, so I know Edmund has also set some deadlines for when students must enroll for the virtual school. Now that's for Edmund currently enrolled families. Their deadline is July 24th. So I visited with the assistant superintendent. She reassured me that if a transfer was granted, that at the time of enrollment, a transfer student could then opt to virtual school. So they could be enrolled in Edmund's virtual school at the time of enrollment. So while I do believe this is time sensitive, and families should haste to make a decision so that they are affirmed of that, I do believe that if it was after the 24th, my understanding would be that when they enroll and accept, then they would still have that option. So I think it was after that date. I would encourage anyone interested in that to contact Edmond Schools to confirm that, to verify that, those dates. I know that their deadlines are set so that they adequately staff their teachers. My understanding is that their virtual school will be staffed by their teachers. There will be teachers assigned. There are time limits on screen time daily, and they have a number of parameters and guidelines in place for at-home learning, or wherever you can be at home, just virtual learning. And then once someone would be feeling like they're comfortable to come back to Oakdale schools, we would welcome them to come back. I do want to also reiterate also that although instruction could be offered for Edmond schools, we use the Oklahoma Academic Standards as our framework for our instruction. So does Edmond schools. So the state mandated curriculum through the Oklahoma Academic Standards would be what this would be based on. Now, the planning, the delivery methods, the time frames, those might be slightly off. But a third grade reading standard, math standard, is still a third grade math reading standard. And my understanding of this virtual model is that they align with Oklahoma standards, much like whatever we do. They might be in different order that they're taught and still be addressed. We talked earlier about minding the gap, social emotional gap, as well as the learning gap. There are no other changes to that slide. The next slide is, sorry, I didn't run too far. Edmonton. They have Edmonton exact path. We have signed up for this. We have yet to pull the trigger on it, but we are in the process of talking with these folks. Free to the district, all districts in the state, as a state plan to use exact path. We also have submitted a Oakdale Schools Foundation grant for other tools like IXL learning, which is very, very similar to Edmonton now.
The OSF grant was submitted prior to us knowing that admission would be an option. So the principals and I met, we were going to look at either one. I don't think we need to do both, but we would need to do one because it does in target gaps. It allows us to be prescriptive and personalized learning to fill in those gaps, as well as something that can be used through distance learning or other activities at home. Okay, and the next one, precautions. A couple of the major takeaways from this presentation would be that parents are supposed to pre-screen their children before sending them to school beginning August 13th. Those safeguards are there. We would want no child attending has a fever or respiratory systems before entering the school. We would ask parents to do that. We feel like conducting full on-site temperature taking would result in crowded lineups, which then the consequence would be decreased social distancing and loss of instructional time. But we do have current procedures about sending children home should they have those would remain in effect. And our school nurse, Julie Barber, is here with us this evening as well. Thank you, Julie. She has created some additional plans, procedures, flow charts that are in this show as well. There are a couple of additions to this next topic, masks and face coverings on the same slide. Oakdale faculty, staff, and students will wear masks and face coverings next year. This is a slight revision to what we previously stated. I don't think it's a huge deviation. I think it's just clarifying our intent. Was that our previously we said everyone is required to have one available. We want them to wear it. And we know that those wearing face coverings would be prioritized at times when it would be most difficult to maintain social distancing, such as staying in lines or finishing over or those types of things where you cannot social distance. As far as adults in the school, we realize that social distancing for teachers may not always be as practical or as much as we would recommend. Therefore, wearing a mask for teachers is a reasonable precaution, and we want to ask them to do that as well. And we will provide our staff with a mask or face shield. We've also explored some other masks that have the clear plastics so your mouth can be seen, particularly when you're teaching phonics and things like that. To make sure it's so important to be able to see people's lips and circles. So we have a plethora of masks and things options, but we will be glad to provide those for any teacher they may wish to provide their own as well. We also know that the adults in the school need to remain vigilant and socially distance around each other and wear a face covering while at school. And we also further we respect faculty members' choice to wear a mask more frequently. 100% of the time they wish to do that. More about masks. Yes, sir.
For the avoidance of doubt, I'm going to take a point of privilege here. At the risk of interrupting the presentation, I'll just speak loudly. This would have been a development from our working session of last Thursday. We had at that time prescribed what I would characterize as a more suggestive policy on masks. Through conversation individually with you, board members with you, collaborating in that way, we've determined Oakdale's going to wear masks. And so it feels important enough and to grab the mic for just a second and say, for the avoidance of doubt, Oakdale's going to wear masks come the fall. There will be some conditions that you'll cover, especially in a moment, outside play or other, but through a lot of discussion, again, through appropriate channels, I did want to just highlight the fact that for the avoidance of doubt and for the community's awareness, Oakdale will be masked up in August. And so I did not want to leave that point ambiguous from the presentation, lest it be getting kind of a very good PowerPoint. I'm just going to elevate that. We're
Thank you. So on the next slide, more about masks. The first bullet says every student will wear their own clean face mask or face covering, like above, while in school. So it is the top bullet point right there. So it's reiterated again. Students will bring their own face covering and must be able to use it independently. And the teachers will create their own procedures in the classrooms. If a child does not have a mask, if it's lost or stolen or something happens to that, or if they're in need, we will provide them with a disposable one, much like what we most are wearing. We have those on order. So I guess it begs the question, so what about on the bus? Yes, we cannot social distance on the bus the way that with the current numbers of students running. In the classroom during instruction time, Yes, except for some instances where there's adequate physical distance. We're fortunate to have architecturally designed classrooms that are larger than other schools where I've worked. However, it may still not be adequate to social distance as much as possible. So that's kind of a class-by-class situation. Students would be expected to comply with their teachers' directives about when to put on a mask and that they should be wearing it. We want them to be independent, be responsible, and we also, if parents request their child to wear a mask 100% of the time, that we fully support that, and that we would ask the students and parents to have their student be responsible for complying with that request. In our common or outdoor areas during non-instructional times, yes, except for some instances where there is adequate physical distance. For example, yes, we're in congested common areas. It would be appropriate at dismissal times, passing periods, crowded hallways. The outdoor recesses, we have the flexibility for social distancing, so that may not be necessary. Next slide. Cleaning and sanitizing. The only, I don't think there are any changes from the last meeting there. We still are working, I think later in the agenda, we have a purchase order or some things, a quote for retrofitting our existing drinking fountains to have the bottle fillers. Our school nurse, again, I don't think there's any changes to this at all from our last meeting, but Nurse Carter has done a lot of diligent work in research and reading to get us the latest and most current information so that we are ready to kick off. In the slide deck is a flow chart, and we have this to guide us because we know there are a lot of yeses and nos, and if-thens. This would be the plan for that. That has not changed since we met last. What we have discussed, I think briefly at our last meeting, and in my conversations with other superintendents and reading literature around the country, is when you close school, what triggers a school closure or quarantine? That's a moving target as well. There's different advice, I think, or at least it's kind of a spectrum of opinions about that. We do have a plan that we began kind of tweaking. It's not ready to be pushed out yet, but I think we must consider the context as well for all those things, the geography of where there might be an exposure, the frequency, the amount of time, who they were with, the nature of the activity, all those things come into place. So we will rely heavily on the experts that we have that we can reach out to. Trying to think of this anything else on this. We realize that this framework, when we may have to close, is really contingent on how people are compliant with this plan. The less compliant they are, the quicker we may have to come up with something. The last bullet does also include another consideration that sometimes when parents are thinking about their students, and rightfully so, as a school administrator, we have to think if we had an abundance of 6 teachers, could we conduct school? The kids might be phenomenally well, but if a majority of our staff people are ill, we may have to close school at that time. A few years ago, when I was at my previous job, we closed school for a few days, and it wasn't, we had a high percentage of kids with flu, but I could not get teachers there to run the school. We could, we just can't do that with just a handful of people. So those are things as administrators we have to consider moving forward. Entry to school remains unchanged. Classrooms and hallways, the only change that we have made into this is that we have been seeing how many amplification systems we have in working order and the technology so that a teacher needs an amplification system for his or her voice to carry better and to be able to be heard better. We would look into that. We may have to purchase some additional. We have some in-ceiling speakers that we could do a Bluetooth, and it could be faster than that as well. So that's what Mike's been working on. Principals have been walking around and checking on those today, actually. Cafeteria remains unchanged. That's the same as the last day. Outdoor recesses, I'll just pause for a moment here, and the first several bullets remain unchanged. The last several bullets, I did clarify that strict physical distancing would not be emphasized when we have ample outdoor space. Students need as much fresh air as possible. Teachers may take their classes outside. If they want to go outside and do math, I'm fine with that. Masks may not be needed during some outdoor activities where there's ample physical distancing. And parents, again, like I said, even at recess, you don't have to wear a mask. I want you to wear that. I'm your dad. They have that ability, we fully support that. We would also discourage high-risk activities. I'm picturing a couple, like maybe some second grade boys just doing the little, the bear cut thing rolling down hills. We folks, hey guys, let's kind of break that up, because that would be probably a little bit too close. After school dismissal remains unchanged. Next slide. Athletics, events, and clubs. We realize that extracurricular activities are an important part of school. So are sports and the fine arts as well. Clubs and events, those are some of the most memorable things that students have as they go through school. These activities, for the most part, are voluntary. We do want parents to know the risk factors, so the principals are working on a document that they can list all of our activities at clubs and relative risk factors for parents to have that information. All of the other information on this remains unchanged. The next slide, information day, unchanged. The next slide, first day of school, unchanged. And then closing, and the last thing is probably the next agenda item, but I do have a graphic of potential school slight revision from as far as a student or parent standpoint. There's only one day that would be different. Teachers, it affects a little bit more beginning at the end of the year. So with that, I will pause and listen to the rest.
Okay, well, we will have some discussion. Let me first just affirm the work that's been done by our principals, Mr. Franz, Dr. Pierce, and a whole lot of other people. And this is not easy, and I commend the work that's been done. I will say it has been driven by science, and it has moved. I think that folks who are watching will have already sensed, with respect to the issue of mask wearing, we were receiving, developing information, and we made a different choice. I think it was John Maynard Keynes who said, when I'm confronted with different facts, I change my mind. What do you do? And so I think it's reasonable that folks who are reporting themselves into this have listened to the data and are trying to follow it. Notwithstanding that, you have some impressions. The first casualty of war will always be the battle. So we should know that going in. We'll have to make some adjustments. With that preamble, I would invite comment specifically from my board colleagues, because our task here is to assess the updates to what we've already seen, to discuss those among ourselves, and then to cast a vote with respect to this plan for reopening in August. So I invite the commentary, if there be any, from my board colleagues.
So my question is, my eighth grader does not like virtual learning. Okay. Wants to be in school. I didn't make that decision as a parent. My fifth grader doesn't like to be in school. He likes the virtual learning. So my fifth grader enrolls in the ed, and he's in the Apex virtual learning program that they're going to offer for those elementary level students. And a question was raised earlier, we get to November and things change, and now we're offering only virtual learning at Oakdale. It's my understanding that my child, my fifth grader, with no time lost at all, could end on Edmond this day and be right back into Oakdale this day. Is that accurate? Now, obviously, there's some Board of Education notes on there, but that's after the fact.
I think the high-level answer to that is yes, they could return immediately, because it would be a matter of, just as if you moved to school districts. If you sold your house and moved to another location, you would just withdraw and re-enroll here. We welcome them back seamlessly. I do want to clarify, Oakdale is not offering virtual learning.
No. Oh, that's right. If we go back to distance learning.
Right.
Sorry, I'm getting the nomenclature.
I'm
correct.
working on my preaching to myself as well.
Yes.
So my understanding of the way schools typically operate, school law, would be that if you apply for a transfer to another school district, you become dissatisfied or do not wish the option any longer, you would
Or my
say,
option changes.
yeah, if your option changes, whenever you were ready and comfortable, you could re-enroll at Oakdale because you're a resident of this school district.
Yeah.
And
I don't know, I haven't dug into the weeds far enough, like, do we need to reconfirm a utility bill or mortgage or some statement? Perhaps, maybe it was already done this week and we have it within the last couple of months, we just come on back.
Okay.
But I think that would be a seamless transition on our end as far as procedure.
I have a point of clarification to that question.
This is actually board debate. I'm going to go ahead and say, we'll make an exception here, given the nature of this discussion. We'll look at it.
It's just, that was my question earlier, and he asked it, and that's great. So I would just carry that one step further. Let's say that he, his son decided to go back to Oakdale, but then Oakdale only does virtual learning for 3 months and then decides to reopen.
Distance learning.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry. Does distance learning for only 3 months and then discontinues it. Now can the son go back to Edmond?
I don't know the full answer on that because I think the deciding factor, the question was, if a student, based on Mr. Corbett's scenario, one of his sons was ready to come back to Oakdale and was doing business learning, he came back, but maybe wasn't, could they go back to Edmond again? That's basically what you're asking.
To stay in a virtual.
To stay in a virtual environment. I think that would then be another transfer application through Edmond schools, and the superintendent would have to consider that. That would not be something that we would decide. I don't know how they would respond to that.
Yeah.
I really believe that the virtual option for Edmond schools is a phenomenal option. I don't know of anyone else that has this golden opportunity, mainly because, as we discussed finances earlier, Oakdale does not rely strongly upon state aid, the per pupil allocation formula through the state. We heavily rely on funding through our ad valorem property taxes. So for a student to transfer to Edmond, if they're present on October 1st, Edmond Schools counts that student as theirs. And so they would get the per pupil, which would help fund this curriculum they're purchasing and the teachers they're paying to run it. So to me, it's win-win. That there's an opportunity to have a teacher with solid curriculum that they are assigned to that teacher. And then if things change, you come back, you can still be a resident of Oakdale. It doesn't affect us strongly in a financial way. So I think it's really a win-win in my opinion.
Other questions from the board?
I was gonna ask, I don't think I need the microphone. Maybe Dr. Pierce can just repeat real fast because it's just quick. I saw in another school board meeting that they were asking about library books, like to be able to borrow this. I don't know if that was covered in there. I thought that was a pretty good question.
We did not cover that specifically. That question was raised amongst our faculty, and we asked our 2 librarians to do further research. I think as a 30,000-foot view, it would be the media centers would be open. We would, again, like many businesses, you have a certain capacity, social distancing, we would have to clean them on a more frequent basis. There's a high tension, just like our other areas. But as far as actually like on books and paper, we asked our 2 librarians to do the research and come up with some answers for us, because I don't know the answer to that right now. So I believe that our library associations and things like that have thought about that much longer than I would.
Now, for members of the board, we've had a chance to see the preponderance of this plan now for a week. I do want to make absolutely sure that we highlight those things that will have changed. What is the variance from last time we had a chance to see this and to discuss? And clearly, we have emphasized the process for Edmond Public Schools for its application. And Dr. Pierce will, what is the plan for making sure that our families are aware as best as possible that we can communicate timelines, deadlines, what needs to happen for families who need or want that option? Can we push that out very specifically?
I am planning to communicate tomorrow morning board highlights and include this presentation in an email tomorrow. Now, I can reach out to Edmond's district office and see if they have any additional answers, but I don't know when, if someone went tomorrow morning and applied for a transfer to Edmond Schools, I don't know when they would approve that. I would guess it'd be at their next regular board meeting, which I would imagine be with early August, unless they have one in between that I'm unaware of.
Okay, so we obviously, we don't control Edmund board's decision, but we can certainly make sure that we get out adequate information timely. If it's indeed a July 24th deadline, that would mean our families have 10 days effectively to make contact with the school. I just want to make sure that we do that part and make sure we go above and beyond communicating to the best of our understanding. Here's the deadlines, here's what you need to do. So if we could ask you to make sure to comment that, Dr. Pierce, that would be very helpful. The second and most obvious part is our evolution on masks. I think we've probably given that a fair treatment. Any questions or additions for our community relative to mask wearing?
Just that, I think we obviously have our teachers and students as top priority and safety, and I think wearing the mask will help us stay open so that we don't open and have to automatically close. I hope this will help.
And we're one of the few school districts that have a school nurse in the school. I mean, it's huge. That's a valuable asset that a lot of school buildings do not have directly. So thanks for all your work, Julie. You're going to work a lot. Get stay on the ball.
Okay, and the last thing I would emphasize, this is just a general statement, again, appreciating all the detail that's gone into planning. Some parts are left necessarily ambiguous. So particularly relative to triggers on when we either close school or quarantine a particular area, we are manifestly blessed that the architecture of our building is in pods. And so that gives us advantages that you don't have if you walk the halls at the Memorial, as an example. We will absolutely use that, leverage it. Some of those are unquestionably going to have to be game time decisions. We will rely on experts and advice. We will contact trace. We will do the things you do. But for the community, to the extent there are some things that don't appear to be yet, if A, then B, I would suggest that because some of those we're going to make decisions as circumstances evolve with the health and safety of our students and faculty.
And it would be not a hasty decision unless, emergency situations. It'd be something that we would take extremely seriously, and it would be a circumstance that we don't take lightly.
I do have a question about that. And I know we're working on the plan currently, but would a classroom be notified if there was a positive case?
Yes, we had letters prepared. We just need to personalize them, but we have letters prepared now for a variety of scenarios that can go out to employees, staff, families, etc. There's various versions of it.
Okay. Board members, further questions, comments, thoughts you have to share on this?
I have none.
Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the back to school plan as presented by Dr. Pierce and others?
Second.
A motion and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Again, thank you, Dr. Pierce. Okay. I believe item 6.4 is consideration, possible action on revisions to the school calendar, which we have another document in tiny.
Yes,
Tiny font.
yes, very tiny font. But I will, looks like Andy has taken down the slide, but if you recall that last slide, the major changes to this for teachers would be starting 2 contract days sooner than usual so that we can have specific professional development in such things as Google Classroom and technology use, etc. I think our teachers learned a lot last spring. However, the learning curve is steep for some, less for others. That's just to be quite candid about that. But I think for the sake of our students, we need to have them ready, able, and confident in what they're doing. So we're going to use that time for those types of things. The other teacher date that changes would be the end of school year. It's the day after school. Traditionally, their last contract day is the last day for the students, and then they exit after the students. However, they're still up here working. Thank you, forgot all about that. However, teachers put in a lot of extra time beyond the last day of school. This gives them a contract day that we would have avoid any just sit and get professional development, that we would ask them to check out, say farewell to anyone leaving or retiring, etc. Looks like Andy does have that on the large screen. It's also probably, it is an attachment to your simple meetings agenda item as well. The other change that would affect families and students would be the day after fall break. We had planned to end. Fall break was the Thursday, Friday, and then Monday. We would have Tuesday be a parent-teacher conference with flexible work hours for teachers and for parents to have conferences even to evening. So the work day might be 10 to 6, 11 to 7, something like that, to allow parents the opportunity to come in and talk with their teachers. It may be virtual, it may not be this way either. So they will have an opportunity to hear the child's progress about any learning gaps and any plans moving forward. So that really gives, if I'm a student, I'm thinking now I've got a really 4-day fall break. I'm really not too upset with that. We realize that some families may utilize that for travel or other things. We can't control it. We can do that now anyway, probably. My experience has been that families still sometimes do that. But I believe this year with the importance of the possible achievement gaps, that we'll have a great attendance of this. Parents will want to know their kids are doing. So we will allow teachers the flexibility to still have flexible hours that day. Students would not in attendance. Previously, if you recall, there was a fall parent-teacher conference day, but it was held in the evenings after a full day of work. They would have a half evening, then the next week they would repeat that. I feel it would be very problematic to clean our school if we had parent conferences until 8 p.m. We would not be ready for this day. So in order to keep with our previous plan that you just approved, I think we need to go to a different option, and that's what this reflects. So those are the highlights of this. It still gives us plenty of extra hours built in. It meets the 1080 hour requirement. It exceeds it by 80 hours. There's not snow days built in, etc. But if we had to close for snow or ice, we could still close and have exceeding hours beyond what the state minimum requirements. So I did not build snow days in because we could just close for that. If we close for distance learning, I will be bringing the policy shortly to you so that we can have a board policy how that we would be able to count attendance for those days. So distance learning still counts a day for attendance.
All right, thanks, Dr. Pierce. My board colleagues, are there questions on the schedule? Okay. Seeing that, we have a motion to approve as presented. A motion.
Second.
Second, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. I would point out we have 7 minutes until the air conditioning goes off. In the event that is a decision.
I changed it.
Oh, did you? We are all the time. All right. Thank you, Mr. Prince.
Let's go back to that salary schedule agenda.
Yeah. Item 6.5, we do have a couple of personnel recommendations, including, I believe, extra duty assignments that Dr. Pierce will share with us.
Yes, as you see on the attachment, there are some recommendations for new hiring, mostly replacement positions. Well, they're all replacement positions. And then we have some extra duty assignments, and then we have had a couple of resignations since the last time that we looked at this at our regular meeting, and retirements going on to other things, but we do have all of our positions filled at this time, which is reflected on this document.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
I did want to add some, I'm sorry to interrupt you. When you look at the extra duty assignments, I've asked Phyllis that she writes, or puts our contracts together to add a clause into all of those contracts with extra duty, like second jobs, coaching things, as well as extra duties. That's, you may be familiar with force majeure. So there would be a clause in there. For example, if track this spring, next spring, we could not hold track. Like this past spring, if school was closed, we were doing distance learning, we did not have track, we would not pay that stipend for that teacher because we cannot uphold our end of that contract. So because of force majeure, they would be signing off that they understand that that could be a possibility. We hope not, but it also protects some of our assets as well.
I would suggest that force majeure clauses in contracts have never been so closely scrutinized as in the last 6 months. That's just a personal experience. Are there any questions specific to that point or more generally on what's presented for personnel? Okay, saying that motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 6.6, we have a proposed increase to the lunch specific portion of school provided meals from $3 to $3.10. Commentary around that, either from Steve or Dr. Pierce.
We annually look at all of this with the child nutrition representative at the State Department of Education. Their recommendation was that we should increase by 10%. We are not trying to make money on meals, but we can't go into the red either. This just keeps us at pace with some of the reimbursable things and the claims as we get through the child nutrition federal funds. So this keeps us current with that, those price changes.
Price of breakfast remain unchanged.
Yes.
Okay. Other questions relative to this? Questions?
No.
Okay. Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. 6.6. 6.7, this is for refillable water stations. I think Dr. Pierce, you mentioned this as one of those precautions that you know, COVID. Go ahead and describe if you would.
Yes, if you are unfamiliar, we have some drinking fountains that have the mouthpiece. Those would not be used next year. We have just a very limited amount of, it's like an attachment or a different type of fountain. You just hold your water bottle up to it. It's a sensor, it just fills your water bottle. So we'll permit students to do that. I think it will be less touch and we'll clean those frequently, but we want to add more of those. And that this request is to do that.
Those are strategically planned throughout the building. So we would have one large line right outside the cafeteria. And that contractor is supposed to be starting on that in the next week.
Okay. Questions?
This is from bond 34 and is a permissible item for rest of the
How many are we replacing or?
I believe there's 4 locations within the school that will have a refillable station added to the push portion. And part of the job is to either turn off the push portion or work it to where it can, it could be used, but we would designate it as not to use the push portion.
How many did we have before?
We have 2 spots right now in the building. We have one outside the main cafeteria and then one in the 5th grade new wing.
So we would be adding 4 more.
I believe it's 4 more locations.
Okay.
Some of our devices could be retrofitted, some have to be replaced. So that's why there's a kind of different amount on some of those stations.
Okay. Seems like we're going to have any questions, comments? Have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Item 6.8, shall we replace an AC?
That's already scheduled, it's been ordered, so I hope that you approve it. Main unit by the middle school library. It services some of the admin offices, and then on this area that it went out 2.5 weeks ago. So those have to be custom fit made. It's not cheap, so I'm gonna do it.
Objection?
We definitely be there.
Bond 34 will cover that as well.
Yes. Any questions? Okay, have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, item 6.9 is consideration of rules. Dr. Pierce will walk us through this.
Yes, annually, we would take a look at the financial roles for the district so that we have a distribution of assignments for financial things. And as you can see listed Steve is treasurer, Arlene is board clerk, Phyllis is deputy board clerk is a new add. We want to have a backup should Marlene not be able to attend. The encumbrance clerk, activity fund custodian, Marlene on both of those. Activity fund co-custodian would be Mike Francis. Federal programs would be Steve Huff.
Questions on the roles? Would add that it was carried out felicitously all the time. So thank you. If we have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion unanimously carries. Item 6.10, this is our last item, I'll just read its entirety. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on directing the district treasurer to conduct financial procedures for the district, including the investment distribution of earnings from investments, purchase of non-payable warrants in one district fund with money from another, and or to negotiate purchase of non-payable warrants for other sources and all the general duties of the treasurer as outlined in law and policy. Any discussion, or does anyone else want to do that?
It's just procedural that allows me to deal with the cash flow.
Yeah, anyone want to take the job from Steve? Okay. And a motion, please, confirm.
Motion to affirm.
Second.
A second, all those in favor of continuing? Aye. Motion carries.
There's only one item that you guys did not vote on.
Okay.
It's the very first item, 6.1.
Oh, I believe we're gonna table that. Board, what's your preference? That is a staff
On this
component.
side, yeah.
But yeah, well, I think we need to roll that up.
Yeah. So Marlene, we
So
will,
on the support and the certified, you're rolling it together.
we're gonna roll those together for consideration as agenda item number 1 on
Okay.
July 3rd.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
And we'll just stipulate that that's for discussion of possible action July 3rd
Thank you.
with our intent being. Okay, that concludes a robust agenda. Are there items, board members, that are not on the agenda that we need to raise in accordance with the strictures provided?
I move to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for coming to me.
And then I'd like you guys to sign.